Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Joe Gould. I'm here with Adam Old Man Winters, and we're here to discuss a Halloween movie.
I don't recall that this came out during the fall season. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Is this a 1993 movie?
1991. So just for the
Really?
record,
Huh.
Ernest Scared Stupid is the movie we're going to review, and it came out on October 11th, 1991.
Well, it did come out appropriately then. Very nice.
Yes, in my opinion, this is the best children's-ish Halloween movie of all time.
It's got to be up there. According to the internet, a lot of people got traumatized by the troll scares in this, and I'd say mission accomplished if that's the case.
Well, it could have been a lot worse.
Indeed.
The rumor and innuendo is that early scripts for this, based off of the movie poster, is that the troll would brace his army via rising dead children.
Woohoo! I like it.
So I'm not sure I'm buying it, but man, that would be a different way to do it.
Would it still have its happy ending when everything gets back to normal? Or do some kids not get to come back?
Well, that is an interesting thought. That's probably, if there is any truth to that rumor, that's probably one of the reasons why they got nixed.
I will say, as much as I like this movie, it seems to play a little bit fast and loose with whatever rules it has for how the troll plan works and stuff like that. Maybe that's part of the script rewriting.
Well, I think it's a more nuanced plot than I remember back when I was a kid. I would have seen this movie probably about the time it came out. That was probably the peak of my Ernest fandom.
Peak of everybody's, most likely. So this would have been the number 4 Ernest in the title movie to be in theaters, and the last one to be released by the Disney imprint, or the Touchstone, or whatever it was.
Yes, and that robbed us of Barkley the dog, who was under contract with Disney.
Huh.
So that's why I'm sure since he was a big hit in the 2 movies that he was in, they probably would have worked him in.
Right? Rimshot.
Rimshot. And he wasn't in the next movie. I think he got replaced by a goldfish. The budget didn't go up.
The dog had a separate contract than Jim Varney?
Sounds like it.
I gotta say,
I wonder if this dog is related to Wishbone.
I thought they were the same terrier. Maybe they came from the same trainer.
That's probably going down a dog trail we didn't intend.
Let me say, out of respect for Barkley the dog here, he's a big star of this movie, and he's not credited as such. I looked on the cast credits at the end of the movie. Barkley is listed as number 32. He's right behind Nameless Child number 2, and he's right in front of the stunt coordinator. And beyond that is the person who did the voice of Trantor the Troll, which I also thought should have been a little higher on the cast list, but that's me.
I don't think I appreciate the Troll's voice as much, because that's probably my biggest critique of the film, is that it doesn't seem like the voice is coming out of the mouth.
How would you expect it to sound? Or is it the mouth's movement?
It's the movement. So there was 14 motors that apparently move that mouth, or move that head.
We have to tackle Ernest Goes to Jail. We'll learn more about the career of Barkley the Wonder Dog.
Yeah, this is going to be a big research project, sounds like. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page. I feel like we need to take care of that.
That dog is special, man.
Yeah, he can drive a car.
And not just one lame camera angle. There were a couple of
I was impressed. That was one of the more impressive shots. They had a shot of Ernest fighting the troll on top of the vehicle, and you could see the dog inside the front window steering the car. So it was filmed at the same time. That's pretty freaking cool.
The whole truck scene is really good in this movie. They use it in the trailers a lot, as I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember any of the trailers. But before we get into the movie, should we give a quick history of Ernest in general?
Well, you go ahead. First one we've done.
Ernest P. Worrell was actually Jim Varney, who I don't know tons about Jim Varney, but I think I would have liked the guy.
Buried in Kentucky, I think.
Say what?
I think he's buried in Kentucky. Never been to his gravestone.
Okay. Yeah,
I'd make a pilgrimage. I'd do it for Jim Varney.
Maybe we can do a field trip. And he was born in June 15th, 1949. He died at age 50 of cancer on February 10th, 2000. Lung cancer. He was a chain smoker, basically.
Yeah. I think he did the occasional PSA of anti-smoking, but
He did one. I believe it was after he got cancer, so I don't think
Well,
he was one of those proactive ones. But he was created, or Ernest was created by Varney with the national ad agency Cardin and Cherry, and those two guys directed. I'm sorry, Cherry and another guy called Coke Sam's. It's not his real name, but they directed every one of the Ernest films. So
well,
basically, he's created by an ad agency though in Nashville.
you got to remember, there's like 10 of these films, though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All of them?
And that's according to the notes. Now I'm not familiar with Coke Sam's, so I'm not sure if he was part of the ad agency or not. I had to go do more research on him. But they started off he was in a bunch of local ad commercials with Mellow Yellow, Chex, Taco John, Purity
Yeah.
Milk.
I was always interested. I feel like he advertised at some point both Mellow Yellow and Mountain Dew, which is kind of bold, but I think his primary one was Mellow Yellow.
Yeah, I think he's most known for Mellow Yellow. I wouldn't refute the Mountain Dew. I can't recall any particular ad though. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. And in these commercials, he would often speak to the person off camera, Vernon or Vern, and it would usually end with, "Know what I mean, Vern?"
With some kind of physical pain involved when a window would shut on his hands or a ladder would fall over.
Yes. And Vern never spoke, but he would often shake his head via the camera. Usually no. And pretty popular with commercials. They did a feature film, which I was not really familiar with until just lately when you introduced me to the idea. But Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam. Excuse me.
Never seen it all the way through. It's on my bucket list to watch it all the way.
Yeah. You're not going to find physical copies of this very cheap, but it's available to stream legally, free, in many places.
All right.
Including Vudu.
Yeah.
I will not call it Fandango. It's Vudu.
Fandango at home is what they want you to call it.
I got another F word to throw towards Fandango. Ruining my Voodoo name.
Yeah, Voodoo was a great name. Terrific. We have Voodoo in this movie of the.
Oh, we do. Oh, yeah.
Implied anyway.
So the commercials and post-feature film, I believe, they had a comedy series. Hey Vern, it's Ernest. Yeah, Jim Varney actually got a daytime Emmy for that show.
I liked it. It was 13 episodes, one season. I didn't get to watch every. It's one of those things that was probably on at the same time of something else I really wanted to see, like Ninja Turtles or something, but it was an anthology variety show. Have you ever watched any of it?
I've seen little clips. It's on my list of things to cover. Again, maybe if we do a Jim Varney Ernest series, we can work some of that in.
And it brings Dr. Otto back into the fold, which I had no idea what that was at the time, but yeah, so he's in the TV show.
Okay, and then we had 5 feature films between 1987 and 1993, and they are in order. Ernest Goes to Camp in 87, Ernest Saves Christmas in 87, Ernest Goes to Jail in 90, Ernest Scared Stupid in 91, and Ernest Rides Again in 93.
I like them all in different ways, but they were definitely running out of steam by the time they got to Rides Again, probably without the Disney money. I will say this is the last of the Ernest movies that doesn't feel cheap. It feels like they had a legitimate budget and they were making good use of it.
I agree with that. Spitballing, because I can't recall because it's been a while. I'm not sure if I've seen Ernest Goes to Camp all the way through. Ernest Saves Christmas is awesome.
Oh,
it's comparable to Scared Stupid, but it's not like it's hard to compare the two movies in and of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a 1 and 1A for me.
Yeah,
or 1A and 1B, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then Ernest Goes to Jail, I really enjoy probably more than I should.
Probably rank that above Ernest Goes to Camp, just shooting from the hip. Not that I like Camp, but I probably enjoy Jail a little bit more. But part of that is because Chuck and Bobby. And unfortunately, in the theatrical movies, Chuck and Bobby are only in 2 of them. And we get a very close to Chuck, but we get Bobby, but not Chuck. And I believe his name is Tom in this movie. Tom Tulip and his brother Bobby Tulip.
Yeah, Tom and Bobby Tulip. Always fun.
Yeah, the Chuck replacement is okay. I don't feel like they do as much with those characters as they could have compared to what they did in Christmas and Jail. It's probably my major knock on this movie. I just don't get my Chuck and Bobby fix out of it.
Well, I think they would have had to been shoehorned in. I don't think it would have worked.
They feel shoehorned in as it is, beyond the one scene.
But they keep it short. It's like all those cameos in what's his name? Adam Sandler. Yeah, all the cameos that you get in the Adam Sandler films. At some point you come to expect it, but you don't want him to stick around too long.
All right.
Anyways, then you get, like I said, you get Ernest Rides Again in '93, which I agreed with you. Box office goes or not box office, but budget goes down. Box office too, but then you get find my notes. You get four direct to videos. And these again were all directed by John Cherry or Coke Sam's. Ernest Goes to School '94, Slam Dunk Ernest in '95.
Kareem is in that.
Yeah, I wonder if he regrets that one. Ernest Goes to Africa in '97, and Ernest in the Army in '98. And I'm not sure if those were considered successful. The whole key to Ernest, again, he kind of feels like a local car salesman, Jim Varney. But you got a very low budget, and you make a lot of profit off your low budget. That's their whole plan. Cult of personality.
Jim Varney was the sort of guy who probably didn't think the character should be overused, but once he kind of got typecast as Ernest, people didn't really think much of anything else from him, even though he does other notable parts in some movies. He's great in the Toy Story. He's the original Slinky Dog voice, and he had some other Disney connections, even though I guess he lost his Ernest contract. Atlantis movie, he was the cookie, but that's another topic for another day.
He was also Jet Gillespie.
Oh yes, that's right.
But Slinky the dog is really his second, claim to fame.
Yep.
So I wonder if how many people realize Ernest voiced the dog.
Yeah.
I consider Slinky, the second coming of the dog in this movie.
The Rimshot. Yeah,
Rimshot.
He's Rimshot.
His name I always forget.
Rimshot!
Doesn't really just roll off the tongue.
So, do you want to summarize the plot for this movie for us?
Yeah. Well, I will say, too, that they were planning more Ernest stuff, but that's when Varney got cancer, and
it's a shame.
They were not going to recast Ernest.
One of those guys that just felt like he was ripped away from us. Like, even though he wasn't in the spotlight like he had been, it's just, man, we were always expecting one day we'd see Ernest ride again.
Yeah. No, Ernest hit me in a similar way to when Tom Petty died. It was just like, it kind of came out of nowhere, and it's just like, just kind of real bummed out. Like a piece of your childhood was taken away from you.
Oh, yes.
He's only 50. You would have thought he was older than that. But
and I will say, whatever the nicotine addiction did to his lungs, it gave him an excellent vocal quality. That gravel that he could always use when he wanted to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So in this movie, Ernest unleashes an evil troll upon a small town on Halloween night, and he helps the local children fight back against it. That's the basic plot of this movie.
Technically, it's the night before Halloween when he lets the troll out.
Well, you're right. He lets it out the night before, and then he has to spend the next, up to 48 hours putting it back. Yeah. So the opening credits are pretty cool.
Oh,
I didn't remember them. And you got basically images of Ernest, Varney, acting all scared and making funny faces. Well, you got, I don't know if this was public domain film in the background, all of it.
Yeah, I made a list of them.
Real cheap. Okay. Yeah, real cheap horror movies in the background. I was hoping to get around to that. Never made it to look that up.
I'm disappointed to this day. I'm only familiar with 3 of them. Nosferatu, the classic 1922 vampire film. The original Little Shop of Horrors in 1960. I believe that's the Jack Nicholson version, and Roger Corman was involved. And the other is Missile to the Moon, 1958. I've never actually gotten around to watching that. But all the rest of them I'm unfamiliar with, and I'm disappointed that I haven't been able to experience any of them. Although I feel like this opening credit scroll probably shows us the best of them. I feel like if I ever watched them, they wouldn't be near as memorable as they are in this little, this music video, so to speak.
So you going to give the list?
Oh, sure, yeah. White Zombie, 1932. Phantom from Space, 1953. The Brain from Planet Arus, 1957. The Screaming Skull, 58. The Hideous Sun Demon, 1959. The Giant Gila Monster, there we go, also from 59. I know that one. The Killer Shrews, 59. And finally, Battle Beyond the Sun.
Okay, so I'm 2 for whatever on those. I'm only I think I'm 0 for 3 for the ones you knew. I've never seen those. I know about the other ones, but I haven't watched them. But yeah, it was a really cool intro. Yeah, it was pretty neat. So the movie opens in the late 19th century.
Are we sure about that?
That's what it says.
It just says Briarville long ago. Briarville, Missouri long ago. I did not catch a specific date.
So I guess I am using notes, but I'm seeing this in multiple places. So I would imagine it's in the script.
Yeah.
It creates a plot problem if it is late 19th century.
I don't find any. Are we just talking about Eartha Kitt's age? Because I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem with that. That is one crazy voodoo lady who is very confident she can fight off vampires, werewolves, and zombies. You tell me she didn't find a way to live a long time.
And I just want to say up front, kudos to Eartha Kitt.
Oh, yeah.
Any old Batman fan will enjoy the fact she's in this movie as Old Lady Hackmore.
I've not seen a whole lot of stuff that Eartha Kitt is in, but everything I have seen, she steals the scene for me, just like Darren McGavin, as I was talking about in Captain America movie. But Emperor's New Groove, the third Catwoman.
She owns this movie. Or she owns this role, I should say.
Her and the dog.
Yeah.
We got some strong personalities in this movie. Varney, Barkley the dog, Eartha Kitt.
You know, if you're going to be in an Ernest movie, you got to feel comfortable in your own skin. All right, so we'll say late 19th century. Maybe we're wrong. You have the demonic troll Trantor on the loose and transforming children into wooden dolls using their energy in the very obvious town of Briarville, Missouri.
They mentioned the fictional county that it's supposed to be in. I think they say Taylor County. Both of those are made up, though. I tried to look it up. There's a Briarville, Missouri.
Yeah, so I don't understand exactly why they picked Briarville. This film was filmed in Nashville.
Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, isn't it?
You could have just made up a city in Tennessee and give credit to the state you filmed it in.
Skullbone, Tennessee would have been a big deal.
They could have used Bucksnort, a real town.
Yeah. Why not, man? That would have been great for this movie. Bucksnort.
If I didn't have to drive an hour and a half to get there, I'd love to go to Bucksnort, stop there, and see if they still have the same gas station and adult bookstore that they had 25 years ago. It was like the only place to stop for gas between college and home.
Yeah, once upon a time.
And you can tell they used to have 2 gas stations, but one is shut down, and they never found a new resident for it.
Oh, dear. I do remember it being a big deal. They filmed it in Nashville. Because, as Tennesseans, we felt state pride in that. But a little bit disappointed they didn't work it into the movie somehow.
We're good enough for Iron Man. Not good enough for Ernest.
Oh, man. Iron Man 3. What a deal there.
Yeah. So the townsfolk capture Trantor with a rope. And they seal him under an oak tree. A very small oak tree that has not grown. So I'm not exactly sure how else the seal was strong.
Yeah.
And the main guy doing it was Phineas Worrell.
I love the Reverend Phineas Worrell. I would have liked to have seen more of him in the cutaway segments that Varney would do.
Yeah, and Trantor's not real happy about this, obviously. And he places a curse on the Worrell family. And at some point it gets established that he can only be released from the seal on October 30th, the night before Halloween, by a Worrell. And part of the curse, the part that makes sure it happens, is that every generation of the Worrells will get, quote, dumber and dumber and dumber until they finally have one dumb enough to release him.
On that note, I like to insert this here because we live in an age of comedy where people make a punchline of characters being as stupid as they possibly can. But how would you describe the intelligence and or stupidity of Ernest P. Worrell?
Well, I think he fits in that little town. I'm not sure the curse only impacted Ernest. I feel like every generation of the town got dumber and dumber and dumber. Did you catch the Easter egg of the tagline for the words that were on the Latin seal for the sheriff department?
Ooh, I don't think I did.
All right, so the seal says ignoramus ad infinitum. Translated, we do not know to infinity.
That's good.
It's very good. But it definitely applies to Ernest too.
When I would describe Ernest, you feel like the kind of Varney had a Shakespearean background, so Ernest always has a Shakespearean quality to his presentation, and he'll make elaborate references to history or culture in sayings, but he'll often mix up some of the elements, get some of the details wrong. And I think his stupidity is one of overthink. Like, if you have a simple problem, he will create a very complex, unnecessary solution to it, or else he'll just work from the wrong premise entirely. And he'll have amazingly consistent and elaborate logic, but again, jumping off from the wrong premise.
I think you're right in general characterization. I think in this movie, though, I think he's just stupid. So later in the movie, we'll bounce around a little bit here. Later in the movie, they build a tree house onto the tree that is sealing Trantor. And Eartha Kitt comes up and it's like, of all the trees in the world, you had to pick this one. And he goes to apologize to her. And during that conversation with her, he learns exactly what he's not supposed to do in order to release the troll, which he doesn't fully believe in, even though the tree made weird noises when they disturbed it. So then he comes back and he's telling the children that he's with that the lady told him about a troll with red glowing eyes. And if he ever gets loose, he will go after the children first and turn them into little wooden dolls that give him his power. And then this is important, and this is acted out. This is exact quote. He can only be awakened the night before Halloween.
Like tonight.
One kid says, like tonight. By a whorl.
Like you.
Like you. Places his hand on a tree, like this, and says, yea, I call thee forth Trantor, knocking on the tree full times.
Hey, Trantor. There it is.
And then he says, but what are the chances of that happening? And the root system comes alive.
He is theatrical, and he had an audience. I just want to point that out. He just couldn't resist. He's a performer.
And that's when everybody freaks out because it starts lightning, and they realize what he's done, or what he likely did. And then the kids all run away, and then Ernest is freaking out with his dog. And he tells himself that they have nothing to be afraid of because they have the high ground. Another common theme in this movie.
Oh, yeah. It's not just a throwaway reference. It's an ongoing thing throughout this film. The high ground.
Yeah. The troll appears all of a sudden, confronts Ernest, but disappears after Ernest accidentally knocks over a small trash can.
Because it has something in the trash can that the troll doesn't like.
Yes, it does.
Boy, I sure hope you're from Keebler. You don't want to fight me. I know Tai Chi, Kung Fu, Chow Mein. I saw Hulkamania 3 times, once in slow motion.
No, the irony is there is no Hulkamania movie.
I was wondering about that. I figured he was talking, maybe it was a TV special. Because I thought at first it was WrestleMania, but he said Hulkamania. So, that's Ernest. He mixes up the details sometimes.
So, we're bouncing around here. See here. So, Ernest himself in this movie is the city sanitation worker. He drives around a dump truck. I think he's got some recycling parts of that too. And he's got a few friends. I guess they're either late elementary or middle school. I'm not real sure.
Ernest has trouble making friends his own age.
He's always had that problem.
Yeah.
So the three main kids in this movie are Kenny, Elizabeth, and Joey. Joey to a lesser extent.
Joey is, what's the horror trope? The first one killed off?
Well, they didn't kill Kenny.
Well, no, Kenny would be like the last girl equivalent.
Well, it was a bad South Park joke. It did land.
Oh, okay. But the horror movie trope is there's always the one person who's there to be the first victim.
Yes, and that was definitely Joey. Now, I think they actually are in line with the horror movie mythology. Elizabeth can't keep her feelings to herself, and she kisses Kenny, and therefore she is caught. Had she not kissed Kenny, she would have been the survivor at the end.
She's loose in her morals.
Yes. The rumor has it that Kenny, or the actor behind Kenny, got so embarrassed and made fun of for that kiss that he quit acting.
What?
I saw that right before we came on, and I haven't had a chance to really look at that, but that's the most silly, stupid thing I've ever heard in my life. It was true.
Who makes fun of a kid for getting kissed in a movie? And not like a real kiss, like a peck on the cheek. Okay.
Different world back then.
Fair enough.
So he's got these 3 friends, and they're bullied every time. They try to make a haunted house, and they get bullied, and they knock down the haunted house. And that's what leads them to Ernest, and Ernest says, or they come to the conclusion one way or the other that they need to have the high ground. So they need a treehouse. And that's when they go to the Old Lady Hackmore, Eartha Kitt's property, and build
what a great,
pretty elaborate treehouse
in her yard is. Oh man, I love it.
Oh yeah.
She said it's an expression of the soul. State of the Soul, something like that.
Yeah, she's a voodoo artist.
Yeah, that's great.
She'd get along with Jimi Hendrix. They should have worked the voodoo child into that. Probably outside the budget, though. So that leads to the scene we were talking about with Ernest unleashing the troll. And then, so the kids are going home. Joey's walking home. He slips down a mud pit, so to speak. And then we learn that Trantor has a special ability.
He's a mimic.
Yes. And he grabs Joey's wrist, and he uses Ernest's voice. And it's not really to trick him; it's more to torment.
You might say Trantor is a troll with that ability.
Yeah. And it's very convenient that Joey fell down a mud pit because his pants probably turned brown, and then he got turned to a wooden doll.
Dried him out.
Yeah. What do you think of that transformation?
Well, the first one's a little bit awkward because they don't show the size change. They do it later. They just show Joey, and then they cut to the wood. And I like the visual effects. The little, I don't know if it's as obvious the first time, the little ghost. Ooh. I woke up the troll.
I think
so. I kind of wondered if it was a soul, like leaving the body somehow.
I think my soul left my body when Harley just did that. But no, I thought the same thing. I liked the visual, but then she's been doing this all day.
She's trolling you.
Well, if Slinky would stop being walked outside the house, I forget the dog's name. What's the dog's name?
Rimshot.
Rimshot. If Rimshot stopped walking around outside, I'd yell at her, but just be really loud with the microphone.
She's defending the high ground.
She doesn't have the high ground.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem. All right, it seems to be settling down. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So they do the transformation. It looks really cool. And then you realize that he's not a life-size Pinocchio-esque wooden boy, but that he's just a little figurine. And it's like, well, how did he shrink? Because it's very obvious he was not shrunk in the mud.
Yeah, it's clear.
So I'm not even sure how they did the visual effects, but, you know.
Yeah, and they do it properly later on, but it's a little awkward the first time.
So they got it. So I guess we should say, because I don't think we've made it clear, Trantor has to capture 5 children. And basically, you get a little pod people thing going on. So as he gets his first one, you get these little avocado-looking fruit things start growing on the trees.
Hey, nasty.
And we're told that when they hit the ground, that's when all hell breaks loose, so to speak.
And we learned that from the book that Lady Hackmore never wanted to open, which is a little odd to me. Her entire existence seems to be built around protecting the tree and guarding her own brothers and sisters, blood or adopted, who've been turned into wood. And it's odd to me she never would have opened the book on trolls and other tree spirits to learn more about how to stop a troll if it does get out.
Yeah. I don't think this book has the biggest budget either. So maybe she just wasn't that excited to open it.
It looks like a children's book. Like one of those real cheap things, not something that would have been written down by an archmage in the 17 or 1800s.
No, you're not going to find this book at, Barnes & Noble. This is going to be more of a, in the Kroger kind of thing. So maybe we'll just speed through a little bit of this. And so he ends up capturing a second kid off a skateboard.
Rando victim.
Yeah, they're just to move the plot along. And then his third victim is Elizabeth, who, it was a great scene, but kind of creepy looking at it today. So she's freaking out because she thinks a troll's on the loose. And she doesn't want to go to this Halloween party. But her mom's basically like, get your head out of your end, you're going to the Halloween party. And then Elizabeth's like, well, I thought I heard something under the bed. Can you check under the bed for me? And she says, no, I'm not. Get ready. So then Elizabeth sticks her head under the bed to check. And she sees her stuffed animal. And she's so relieved. And she takes her stuffed animal and she squeezes it and loves it. And then she rolls over in the bed. And Trantor has got the eyes on her. His little mucusy face.
He's just lying there.
Just lying there.
Yeah, lying.
And it's unclear where he came from, so maybe he was under the bed, maybe he wasn't.
He has some teleporting abilities somehow.
I don't know if they could have filmed that the exact same way today.
So it's great because we get 2 shots of Trantor. We get the close-up of his face, then we get the zoom out to see him just in the other side of the bed entirely. And then it's a quick cut, and we don't actually see her transformation, but they leave that to the horrors of imagination.
Yeah. So then the fourth victim Kenny's been looking for his dad at this point, the sheriff. So Kenny's dad is the sheriff. I don't think he explicitly said that. And he ends up walking around with his friend Greg. I don't know if he's called Greg in the movie, but I found it in the notes. And then Trantor uses Elizabeth's voice to lure Kenny away. And then while Kenny's looking in this giant pipe, Greg gets taken as the fourth victim.
And that's when they make it very clear the size change ability, that he transforms them and then he changes the size.
Yeah. And every time he gets a victim, he takes it back to the tree and he puts it into his little stand that you would display your trophies.
We should mention there's a decent chase scene on foot where Kenny is running and the troll's behind him. And
oh yeah, it was good.
It feels like
he's taunting him too with Elizabeth's voice, if I'm not mistaken.
It doesn't seem like the troll's moving very fast, but they give us one great shot of him busting through the fence that I've always liked.
He does end up getting the fifth victim at the Halloween party, and they're getting ready for the costume contest. And behind the curtain, so to speak, you have the line of all the students in the contest, and Trantor's there, and ruckus happens, and ultimately he gets the mayor's oldest son and turns him into the wooden doll.
That was well earned. That kid needed to know a little suffering.
Yeah. Now there is a tragedy. We can't just celebrate that kid getting turned to a wooden doll, because in the ensuing fight, Trantor and Ernest get into it, and Trantor turns Rimshot into a wooden doll.
It is the most mournful.
Tears were shed.
Yeah, that's true.
People walked out of the theater in that moment.
I was never quite sure the wooden thing looked fully like a dog. It always had a weird shape to me.
Yeah, and I think it was the angle. They never really showed a clear shot of it. It makes me wonder if they found like a wooden wolf or something, or some other animal, and it's like, this is as close as we can find to a wood doll or a wood dog.
Yeah, I wonder about the prop department making all those statues.
Whew. Speaking of props, don't let me forget. I got an Easter egg that'll blow your mind.
Ernest never did save Easter. They hinted he would, but he never did.
So, at this point, if it wasn't already clear from the scene earlier where you knocked the trash can over, it becomes very obvious that the trolls cannot handle their dairy products. They must be lactose intolerant. Because he's going to go, I don't know what he's going to do to Ernest, if he's going to turn him into a wood statue or eat him, but he's repelled by the ice cream that is on Ernest because he had thrown him into an ice cream making machine. Or a yogurt machine of some sort.
I suppose that's in the book Prophecy about how to destroy the troll. Do you remember that? From the innocence of 5, an evil army shall arise. When blossoms shower down like rain, my dark kingdom will come again. There is one who can stop me if he will dare, with the heart of a child and a mother's care. The mother's care being understood by Eartha Kitt to be milk. Ultimately.
Yeah, and there's another scene that we'll come back to that in just a second. But yeah, and then because in that scene, that's where Eartha basically says, Ernest, it's up to you. You have to stop him. You are the great redneck hope.
Hallelujah.
Yep. And that's when Ernest goes and he gets scammed by Tom and Bobby, and he buys a bunch of stuff.
$800, whatever the tax would be. He paid about $2,000. In 1991 money on a garbage man salary.
You had troll away spray, Bolivian slingshots, waders, nunchucks, chopped troll bait, plus some more stuff. $17.49.98 plus tax.
But he gets a free incentive with that purchase.
Yeah, it was a record, wasn't it?
Yeah, all the troll love songs ever made,
which came in useful later.
So I gotta say, when Eartha Kitt tells him right before he's the great redneck hope, talks about his line in the lineage, and Phineas Worrell, Ernest says, yeah, but I'm me and he's he. We're talking real danger here. Stand and deliver, fire in line, moment of truce, into the line. 8th level Mario Brothers. That, to this day, remains one of the best references to the Super Mario Brothers franchise that anybody's ever made, in my opinion.
Yeah, and until very recently, the best line on film.
8th level Mario Brothers. I understood. They could have easily screwed that up and just had something generic, but that is something very specific. 8th level Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah, it's up there with Hulkamania. Only it's a little. They didn't flub it. They got it right. So I'm looking for Miak.
Yeah, rare Bulgarian Miak.
Yeah, so he gets back to the house later on. I think this is when he's stuck in a metal tube or a trash can or something. And Eartha
Yeah,
Kitt is plying it off with a big can opener, like a giant sized can opener. And
I'm
he's looking at
amazed
the
she
book.
has one. That's something Ernest would own, but I wouldn't think Eartha Kitt's character would own that.
Yeah, she probably found it in the yard. But he's looking at the book and he realizes 2 pages are stuck together. And I wrote it down, and that's why it's irritating me. I can't find it.
The troll can be destroyed with M-I something K,
Yeah.
more or less.
Here we go. Yeah. So it's thou can destroy itself with M-I and then a blank spot and a K.
Because the pages being stuck, they pulled that off.
And Ernest has the realization that it's talking about Bulgarian Miak, or Miak, however you would say it.
Classic overthink.
Yeah. So can you tell us what's the history of this Bulgarian Miak or Miak?
Well, it doesn't really have one. Unfortunately, I was always hoping it was a real product. I imagined it to be something akin to molasses, just the container they kept it in. But it's something made up for the film. I would have loved it if it was real.
Yeah. So he pulls it out at the party, and I guess he never actually makes contact
No,
with the troll with it. The irony is, even though he got that wrong, it probably would have worked.
if it had dairy in it.
Yeah.
Could have.
So at this point, I guess when they're entering the party, a key point happens where Eartha Kitt sees a lady and her daughter get into an argument over a costume. And they do the classic, I hate you. And the mom's like, I'm not real fond of you either. And then the daughter apologizes. And the mother says, oh, I love you. It's all good. And they realize that the key part of the riddle is referring to unconditional love. Quite the jump.
I always like the Ernest movies. They have important scenes with seemingly unimportant characters. I always like that element to it.
Yeah. This one wasn't executed as well. But
it's a jump. No, there's some logic jump. Again, just as far as the rules of how the trolls work.
Yeah. But basically, they don't like milk. And they really want a mother's love. They want unconditional love.
Heart of a child.
At this point, ultimately, everyone gets back to the treehouse.
The whole town comes out.
Yeah. But Ernest gets there first, upset with his dog, or about his dog. And he tries to smash the troll between the tree and his car. And I'm not sure where the troll went, but he hit the tree, and the troll kind of disappeared for a little bit.
Well, that happened again earlier in the movie when he's under the vehicle, then he's on top of it. The troll has that maneuverability to evade.
Yeah. And at this point, since they have all 5 kids, the avocados have grown, they've matured, and they're starting to drop from the tree. And when they hit the ground, they kind of absorb into the ground, and then they grow out of the ground as a troll. And they're all different.
It's a really good scene. It's impressive.
Oh, yeah. So we'll come back to the trolls. I want to come back to that. But wrapping up the plot part, Kenny gets in his friends, and they go steal a bunch of water guns and milk from a gas station.
The same guy who'd already seen the troll and was freaking out, but now he's upset about the kids shoplifting his dairy products and super soakers.
Yeah. So while they're doing that, the adult townspeople show up, and the trolls just beat the crap out of everybody. And they start, in a very unique way, firing bullets at the sheriff.
My favorite bit is when the guy in the bee costume gets knocked out. I don't know if you remember that, when all the parents were going to the sheriff's office complaining about their missing kids. The knucklehead in the bee costume says, my trash hadn't been picked up. I've got company coming over tonight.
Yeah.
And he's getting attacked by a troll at the tree, and Ernest is going into one of his character methods, and he's pretending to be an ace bowler going for a 7-10 split, and he tosses a bowling ball, I think, into a basketball goal, which ends up going down and hitting the guy in the bee costume instead of the troll, but Ernest is still very pleased with himself. So I like to see that, too. That was good.
Oh, yeah. Oblivious to what he did, too. He knew he made contact, but yeah. So Kenny and his friends arrive, and they start spraying milk and throwing milk bombs at the trolls and takes them pretty much all out. Ernest gets in on the action, too. But while they're doing that, Trantor goes beneath the tree and summons some demons, and he powers up like a super shredder.
He does.
And we find out that he is invincible to milk at this point.
Same year, by the way, right? Secret of the Ooze, 1991.
Yep.
I may have read somewhere. Do you remember when they used the pizza props and they looked nasty in their their high ground defenses. I read somewhere that was from Secret of the Ooze, that pizza prop.
Yes, that was the Easter egg I was holding to.
Oh,
They were the pizza
look
used
at
as
that!
ammunition were props from the movie.
What?
And maybe I didn't look up the guy's name for proper spelling, but the way I heard its name is Doughton. Doughton White. He worked on both movies, so he is the link.
I know. So go Super Shredder Trantor. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, anyways, and we have a final standoff between Ernest and Trantor, and Ernest doesn't really realize yet that the milk won't work, but he thinks it will, and he's getting all angry and fired up. Eartha Kitt has come to the realization that Ernest needs to show unconditional love. She doesn't say it out loud, at least not very loudly, so Ernest doesn't hear her. But at some point, it hits him that unconditional love would weaken Trantor. And I'm not really sure. I feel like that's an awkward realization.
Yeah, you're not sure quite how he comes to that. Yeah, he's read the book and he acknowledges Eartha Kitt. It is possible that he heard something that she said to the mayor or whoever it was. But
she almost whispered it, though.
Yeah, well, she whispered loudly, as we saw in Mad Monster Party when we looked at that.
There you go.
She was thinking loudly.
So then he smiles real big. He says, "Come on, little fellow." And he puts his arms out for a hug. And the creature runs at him, jumps into his arms, and they dance.
He can't resist. Trantor
can't resist.
Is truly weak to this emotion.
Yeah. And Ernest says, "You're so cute." And gives him a big old kiss right on the mouth/nose. One of the two noses.
Oh, man.
And you think to yourself, is the troll going to become a good guy?
He's kind of
smiling. Has he been domesticated? No. His head explodes. And there was a squeaking sound.
Oh, boy.
And then the whole town gathers around Ernest. The sheriff and the wife forget that their son was just turned into a wood statue.
Oh, we missed that part. Yeah. We didn't discuss.
When he discovers the milk wasn't going to work on him, then he gets turned into a statue.
And then Trantor throws him to the ground and lands on him. I was like, that wood can break.
Yeah.
I guess the ground was soft. It gave after all those trolls coming out of it.
Yeah, maybe he was walking with a limp later. We'll see. But anyways, the sheriff and the wife, they're not even paying attention to that. They've finished mourning, apparently.
Yeah.
And they're all smiling at Ernest. And then we see one by one all the kids come back. Including all the old children that got stolen or turned into wood dolls.
So Lady Hackmore went home and got the 4 statues she had been using as desk figurines. And she had some idea Ernest was going to pull this off. Good for her. I don't know how that confidence got there, but...
He's the great redneck hope.
Yeah, man.
And then so everyone's kind of reuniting. That's the point where we have a potential plot hole if she really is that old, because these kids are from 200 years ago.
That lady refused to die until those kids could be brought back. I don't know if you remember it at the very beginning of the movie where Mary Frances, that's her name, right? Mary Frances Hackmore?
I think so.
Where her parents are holding her while they're burying the troll, and they said, "We'll get them back." So she lived her life never giving up hope.
And also not reading the book to find out how.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you felt like early in the movie she was just there to preserve the tree, to keep the troll from getting out. But then she has a little bit of change, and she says, the children can be brought back.
So to wrap up the plot, everyone's celebrating. Eartha Kitt sees that Ernest is sad. He says, "I don't think anything's coming out of that tree for me."
Aww.
And you hope he's talking about the dog, but maybe he's just thinking he just wants a present. But anyways, Rimshot runs out of the truck, runs up to Ernest. They embrace. He falls to the ground with the dog, overcome with joy. And the movie ends with Eartha Kitt giving Ernest a side-eye, like, "What's wrong with you?" kind of look. And go to credits. And the credits roll.
So again, the rules of the troll that I critique a little bit. Do the children statues have to be inside the tree or not? Clearly they don't have to. But I think Eartha Kitt believes they have to, because she takes her siblings, and puts them in the tree. But Kenny is not inside the tree, and Rimshot is definitely not inside the tree, but it still works fine. When
I think he needs 5 wooden dolls on the tree as part of the growing of the pods.
But to restore the kids, they don't have to be in the tree.
No, I guess it's kind of like, I guess you just have to take out the main troll, the troll mom.
All right.
So is Trantor a woman? A woman
What?
troll?
No. He does refer to the trolls as his children. It is clearly an asexual reproduction, so far as I can tell. Like Godzilla, right? Maybe. I don't know.
He or she's got a beard.
It. It is
Should
it.
we use pronouns?
It. It's not Kong this time. It came from beneath the tree of Briarville.
So if I told you that this movie was the only Ernest movie to be reviewed by Siskel and Ebert, one, would you be surprised? And
Yes,
two, what do you think the score was?
they would have trashed this, I'm guessing. But
Yeah, so it was the only one filmed or the only one reviewed by them. They gave it a thumbs down. Ebert specifically, it sounds like had never seen an Ernest movie prior. I think you can't just watch an Ernest movie and not know who Ernest is ahead of time,
yeah,
even if you appreciate Jim Varney.
it's weird they would start with Scared Stupid if they're gonna start.
Yeah, I agree. So their review, or their concluding statement was Jim Varney mugging his way through a dumb script. That was how they described the movie.
You know what? That form of comedy was not near as prevalent then as it is now with stuff like The Office, the success of Jim Carrey. I guess maybe you could throw Adam Sandler in there. But Jim Varney was really an innovator in that style.
No, I agree. I think Jim Varney walked so that Jim Carrey could run. I think that's one way to put it.
Yeah.
So one last thing I want to cover, and then we can review this or give it whatever out of fives. What do you think the connection is between this movie and my favorite cult classic film of all time, Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Well, they had to reuse a lot of the killer clown costumes for that troll army. I'm assuming Trantor was all original because he had to look very distinct.
Yeah, so Trantor, he was original, 14 motors for his head. But the rest of the trolls, so the special effects in this movie was done by the Kyoto brothers, who just 3 years prior had done Killer Clowns. And they reused a lot of the props. And it looks like at least two of them, on two of them, all they changed was the nose and repainted it. And it's really obvious if you're familiar with Killer Clowns. And the other thing is, and there was a picture of all of them. So there were 17 trolls. I could not find what's his name? Trantor. So I think it was 17 plus Trantor.
Ooh, like the 18
But then
dwarves.
they also basically died in the exact same way as the Killer Clowns.
Not by milk, though, was it?
Well, yeah, minus the milk. The clowns, circus people you have to be lactose tolerant. But you had like a little light show. They would disappear. And then you would have basically a bloody stool on the ground representing what was remaining of it. I was not aware of that until watching this movie. And I thought to myself, man, they look like the Killer Clowns.
Yeah.
Like very similar. And then when I was doing the research, I'm like, that's why.
There you go.
And then I thought to myself, that's really kind of sad.
Well,
there's fewer props from Killer Clowns floating around because they got reused.
I'll tell you what, if it's a foam rubber costume, that stuff doesn't hold up. You might as well use it while you got it.
Well, no, those masks were rubber. People were in those masks. I don't. Trantor, it was him that was the big foam.
Oh, okay. Because you've seen pictures of the old Ninja Turtle costumes online, right? Kind of shape they get in over the years.
They need to make a zombie movie out of those things.
Oh man!
So how are we gonna rate this? We gonna use out of 5 rim shots, or
wooden statues is what we got to use.
So I'm gonna give this one knee-jerk reaction 4 to 5 little wooden statues, and I think some of the little plot inconsistencies are really the only thing holding it up.
Yeah, I'm really tempted to give it 5 as far as Ernest movies go because it really has almost everything I ever want in an Ernest movie. It doesn't have Chuck and Bobby. And I've pointed out some of those things already. So I will give it 4 full children statues and half a Kenny statue.
Oh, so he got snapped off. Okay.
Yeah. Like a Kenny leg, maybe. So 4.5 wooden children miniatures.
It killed Kenny.
Yeah, he killed Kenny. Who knows? It killed his career, apparently, because he got kissed on film by a loose woman.
Yeah, so if we're just ranking Ernest movies, you could talk me into 4.5, even 5, because it is up there with the Ernest Saves Christmas in my book. Oh. It's a fun movie. And I give it 4. It's like I said, it's the best Halloween movie that you could say is like a family flick.
Now, there's a lot of them I haven't seen. I never sat down for the Halloween Town movies, but I imagine this is going to be more my speed of what I want. in a Halloween movie. I will say a lot of kids who grew up with this is not a gory movie. It's not a particularly violent movie, but it disturbs people more when you have the creative way of quote unquote killing people off, including kids. And anytime you have a movie that kills the kids off, it feels like nobody is safe, not even you watching it. And there's something about having your soul forever trapped in a wooden statue that's worse than the idea of just being killed off. And I think that resonates with people.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, they took out Rimshot.
Man, that's the star of the film right there.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, you have the proto blip. Yes, they come back, but it's not undone. They really were little wooden statues for that period of time.
Yeah. And they'll probably live with those memories their entire lives. That would be a good idea for a sequel in the Ernest verse, even if you don't have Jim Varney. If you want to do a legacy film, those kids grow up. They have to deal with another uprising of the trolls.
Yeah. You got any closing thoughts on Ernest Scared Stupid?
How about a bumper sandwich, booger lips? Human sacrifice would definitely be a last resort. Traps is where it's at. 4 fathers? I only had 1 father. I didn't even know him that well. Does a fat puppy hate fast cars? Does a one-legged duck swim in a circle? Do rattlesnakes kiss carefully? Very quotable movie, this film. I should note, the Ottoman Empire, according to the internet, occupied the northern Mediterranean region of Africa. The country of Botswana lies in the far south, but did not exist as a nation until centuries after the Ottoman Wars. Again, Ernest sort of mixing the details up in his references.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Ooh.